Բաքվում է սկսել։
So once again, thank you for this opportunity. When we speak about the Velvet Revolution that happened in Czech Republic in 1989 and the continued institutional reforms after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Velvet Revolution that happened in Armenia, there is one huge difference and one huge similarity. This is the people's desire for justice. So this is the main milestone for the two events. So all the reforms, all the efforts should go to that direction. At the same time, there are some big differences. For example, I think the Czech society, the Czech officials were successful in institutional reforms, and they continued in a revolutionary way after the revolution, because it's one thing to do revolution and another thing to make these changes which people fight for. So, and is it mentioned in a lot of books that the time for changes is not really big, sometimes 6 months, even a year, because this potential, this energy is not like, it is limited, it's not limitless. In case of Armenia, however, the government decided to go with an evolutionary way. They were trying not to do very hard changes, or not maybe to lose the legitimacy, because they felt that hard changes can bring also some anxiety and angriness among people. So this is very huge difference, I think. And especially when we think about the reform of security system, of law enforcement bodies, illustration in this context, Czech were prepared for this. And there is also one important, in comparison, what I say, I think what we have in the world, it is in comparison. Maybe if we compare the Czech experience, maybe with more successful experiences, we can find some progress. In case of Armenia as well. So I think everything is in comparison. But when I compare Armenian and Czech cases, I think that the reform of the security system in comparison to what we had in Armenia, there are huge differences. And an important fact here is that in 1968, during Prague Spring, there were officials who were working in that institution. These people have information, they had already experience, and they are waiting for coming up forward with this change. In case of Armenia, however, the new government had no so much resources in the context of specialists and professionals. I think this is one of the important things. I think these are we should also take into context that Czech is situated in Europe, and the integration in European Union was also very important. The neighbors surrounding Czech are more democracy friendly than the neighbors surrounding Armenia. So there are also some objective reasons, I think, for this. Also the civil society. When we read how the Czech government was working for these changes, we noticed that the people, the civil society, always wanted more. They were like watchdogs, they were waiting for changes because they knew there were problems and they wanted these problems to be identified, to voiced up. And they were not satisfied what has been doing, so they wanted more. So this is very important. In case of Armenia, unfortunately, civil society being for these 30 years, also during the Soviet Union, a lot of people were out of politics. So in case of Armenia, the civil society was very away from inside political institutions what was going on. So they knew the problems, but not very deeply. This was a problem. That's why they haven't also the chance to go for specific reforms in some cases. I don't speak about educational, because this is a stuff, we have teachers, we have lecturers, we have students, they are inside these institutions, they know what is going on. They can also give some good solutions, opinions, they can say what is good. But in case of other institutions, we don't have a lot of people who have been inside. So the civil society had a problem of delivering very fast and clear what they want in some cases. So this is also very important. And this was wisely used by the position which we have now, which were the previous government and also the people who were in the power. So these, I think, are also interesting. So this is about our revolution. After the revolution, we faced a lot of challenges: COVID-19, wars, escalations in Armenia, Azerbaijani border, Russian propaganda. So these were huge factors which aimed at diminishing or decreasing the importance of democracy also in the eyes of the people. So in this context, I think what is one of the important things which is also connected with the previous discussion, after the revolution it's also very important not only to liberalize these institutions, this is the first step, the next step is also democratization. And this democratization brings resilience. In the Armenian case, however, the government was not enough sufficient before the war to do this liberalization and democratization of some of the institutions. Unfortunately, we faced a lot of populism, we faced egoism in the context, and it also provided sufficient ground also for these escalations and for the Russian propaganda. So, first, it's very important to specify for the Armenian people what is democracy. What we mean when we say democracy. Because we are dealing with a society where the humanitarian science is not developed. During the Soviet Union there was no political science, Oriental studies were guided by Russian perspective. So this is very important. During these 30 years of independence, unfortunately, as we didn't have reforms, and the same people, mostly these political scientists, the theoreticians, the same people still now we have them in the university. So these people still talk about democracy. And sometimes they want to compare democracy with weakness, associate democracy with weakness, and associate authoritarian with strong government. That's why when we ask people, do you like democracy or not, we should specify what we mean by saying democracy. If we say that democracy is discipline, it's strong institutions, people participation, this is different stuff. But when people understand democracy is the freedom of speech, when everyone can do any kind of manipulation, do everything they want, and not to get punished, of course people will not like. So, in this context, the Russian propaganda was very sufficient, was very efficient. They were also helped by the position, not only one, but some. They even managed to establish new parties after 2018 with new brands, with new people, because they understood that these people are old-fashioned, people don't trust them, so they knew they should have new people. Even people who speak about democracy, about people like the importance of democracy, so they want to occupy the ground, to take every notion, every idea that is circulated and to monopolize it, in order also to monopolize that energy, like a magnet, to keep these people, to collect these people. So this is very important. From another perspective, what I would like to specify in the context of democracy, this is also not only challenging South Caucasus. We see this is a challenge worldwide. The democracy is being challenged not only in South Caucasus but overall. The full-scale invasion of Ukraine, what happened in USA, what changes are now, not changes, but the political processes which are taking place in Europe, these pseudo-nationalist leaders, these populist leaders, this is a shift. And in this context, the Armenian diplomacy, our civil society should be more active in order to specify that Armenia is fighting for democracy in South Caucasus. And we are fighting in not very friendly atmosphere. We are surrounded mostly with authoritarian type of countries. And I want here to make read one small sentence from Václav Havel's books, which was very important for me during this fellowship, reading his books, his ideas about how the moral and politics, how they can go together, because sometimes we feel they don't correspond with each other. But what he was saying, here's a small recent example of this Western short-sightedness. For years now, the entire West has known that Gaddafi is a terrorist, and for years the West has bought oil from him and helped him extract it from the ground. So in fact, the West has cultivated him and continues to support him. To this day, they haven't been able to put together a decent embargo against him. In other words, Westerners are risking their security and their basic moral principles for the sake of a few barrels of crude oil. So we know that we have interests, we know that we have needs. We should not be living in the clouds. However, communication is also very important to specify for what we are doing what. Russian propaganda, these anti-democratic forces, these people were efficient in what case? They told, okay, you had your democracy, but Ilham Aliyev attacked you, a kleptocratic regime, authoritarian regime, and he was, he was successful. And the West that you admire so much, the democracy that you admire so much, they didn't criticize him and the level that you wanted, that you were waiting, that you were anticipating. And I participated here in Forum 2000, and there was no anything about the Ilham Aliyev kleptocracy. Even an Azerbaijani girl voiced up about it. So I think we should be more efficient in this part because we have all the cases in the history. When we speak about Nagorno-Karabakh and when we speak about Armenia, these are different things. Here we have recognized territory, here we don't recognize, and the Armenian government basically accepted that this is a part of Azerbaijan, and they even mentioned that during these 30 years they have also accepted. So I don't want to go deep into the topic, but what is very important to specify, I think no matter how much problems we will have, it can be energetic problems, it can be political problems, we should skip our morals. Because I think the basic of the democracy is the values. And we should really care for the people who believe in these values. Otherwise, if we lost these people, this will be a chain. Because what is very also important, I think I have noticed this also here, the comfort zone, the comfortability sometimes makes us not enough strong against the challenges that we have. But in comparison to us, these authoritarian leaders, like what they want is bad things, but they know what they want. And they work very disciplined. Not in a matter of their countries, in their books, in their personal. In their countries, people not live very well. The institutions are not disciplined. But in the case what they want especially, they are really fast. They are using unlawful methods. They are not using the things that they sign. They are not acting towards the things that they declare their people. And I'm saying discipline, this is not a good discipline that I was speaking to. I'm speaking about the goal justifies the methods in this case. And sometimes this is misinterpreted by Machiavelli or another thing. So this is more criminal stuff. So that's why I think in case of Armenia, the democracy was also hard, especially by the invasions of Azerbaijan. That now the students who take part in the Velvet Revolution, or the people who hear about the Velvet, they say, you speak about democracy, the value of the democracy, but the kleptocratic regime did everything that they wanted, they were not punished for it. So we should clarify more what we are doing and to be more active. At the same time, West did not less in South Caucasus. I always mentioned it, the German escalation, which was Jake Sullivan's intervention, was very important. However, we were not enough sufficient to show this intervention, how much important it was. So I think this also is very important in case of democracy. So here we have external and internal challenges. From the external part, it's very clear that not only Azerbaijan, but also Russia conducts hybrid warfare against Armenia. And this hybrid warfare features in very different methods. If in case of Azerbaijan we have attacks, periodic attacks, like escalations in the border, disinformation campaigns. In case of Russia, we have disinformation campaigns, a big intervention in inner state Armenian things, and it is not like my only opinion. It was even declared by the highest level that we have fifth column in Armenia, though it was not mentioned by whom this fifth column is sponsored, but we can think, and this is a problem that it is not mentioned, because when you don't say, you bring more doubts, so this is another question. So we have hybrid warfare, and also we have closed border. We have closed border with Turkey, though as Armenia government was doing everything in order to open the border with Turkey, and Turkey has declared a law that the opening of the border is directly connected with the Nagorno-Karabakh issue. And when we see now that the Nagorno-Karabakh issue is de facto finished, they still don't open the border. And Azerbaijan is not going to peace talks. So we see maybe there is another agenda for South Caucasus. And I think all actors should be more interested in what is going on, because sometimes some experts were thinking that the solution of the South of Nagorno-Karabakh problem will help to Russia leave the region. But we know that there was an agreement between Russia and Azerbaijan before the Russian invasion to Ukraine, and they come to some important agreements there. We also know about 3+2 format, where Azerbaijan, Russia, Iran, Turkey say that the problems of South Caucasus should be solved in South Caucasus. So these are really very important challenges. And we should be very attentive, very cautious in order to figure out how we are going to stand in this new security architecture. And we should, I think, here emphasize that Armenia is doing a lot for diversifying its foreign policy. We have already military cooperation with India, we have military cooperation with France, we have started military cooperation with US. Prior to this, there were more political discussions, mostly economic discussions. The European Union observation mission in Armenia was very important. Unfortunately, it's not emphasized as much as it was. This is also a problem, that we should work more to show the benefits of this mission. And from these external challenges, Armenia needs huge changes in its security institutions, because the membership in CSTO, the strong cooperation between law enforcement bodies with Russia, these make deep penetration into these institutions, very deep penetration. I will give you just one example to feature, where the Minister of Defense, who was in charge after the Nagorno-Karabakh war, when it was very clear that Russia has different interests, but he was in charge of the Ministry of Defense. This person then was fired, and he went back to Russia, and a month ago he declared that he's establishing a party in Armenia, and his aim is to overthrow the current government. So this person was he was the Minister of Defense, he was also the head of intelligence in the framework of Ministry of Defense. So I think this case shows what kind of weaknesses we have inside our institutions. So we should build our own institutions. And in this context, it's important to mention about this foreign intelligence new institution which was established after the Nagorno-Karabakh war. And also the escalations in Armenia-Azerbaijan border, as a result of which Azerbaijan occupied 150 kilometers square of Armenian recognized territory. So building your own security institutions. So from the external part, this is also very important, because Russia, I think, will want to do everything in order to find a new conflict in South Caucasus, and taking into account these geopolitical shifts. And also, we don't know how the war in Ukraine will proceed. But as for now, we know that the situation there is not it's still on growth, and we don't know how it will over. And it directly affects the situation in South Caucasus. And from inner part, this has, I think, not a lot to do with external factors. This is our homework. We have a lot of homework to do. This is that we have parties who work, also some civil society members who work out of democratic orders. So when you have people who are out of these institutions and who use another tools, this means you don't have consolidated democracy, and you are very far from having democracy. This is the 9th rule by all the factors that we have. So if you have a criminal group who is out, and this is problem inside, this means that this group, having objective circumstances, objective prerequisites for taking the power, they will do everything in order to take the power. So also we need our own security institutions in this context as well. So first they have big social problems. starting from apartments, finding jobs, money. The government has already declared about some social packages, and it's very important to watch this procedure because we have more than 100,000 forcibly displaced people, and for Armenia this is a big number. So from the social perspective, there are a lot of work to do, and the international community has given it help hand. Also the civil society organizations, people individually try to do everything in order to help to integrate these people. At the same time, what happened in Nagorno-Karabakh in September 19, this was very huge damage to the process of peace talks. And I'm not only speaking about peace talks in high level, I'm speaking about peace talks among people. What Azerbaijan conducted against the civilian people, as we know, civilians were also killed. Like 2 brothers, children, 6 and 10 years old, civilian infrastructure was. So this was something which seriously damaged. And either Nagorno-Karabakh people will go back to Nagorno-Karabakh or not. This is also very important for the long-lasting peace. I can't say for now what will happen, but what we have now, this is not, I think, if we will have peace, it will not be a long-term peace inside the people's hearts. It will be just a strong defeat and strong disappointment. And we don't know how things will be in the future. And I think it's very important to find a real possible grounds for cooperation for these peace talks. And the both sides should really do concessions and also overview what are their strategic goals, what are not the short-term goals in the context of one leader or another leader, because the leaders will change, but the people will stay in this region. And we have seen that in 2021, what is very important to emphasize, and I'm speaking about this from my own perspective, I'm not speaking about Azerbaijani people. The people who died during that war, a huge, considerable number of these people were born after the first Nagorno-Karabakh war. So these people have no any responsibility in all these negotiations which have been had. But these people give the price. They gave the price. They were accountable for something where they were not responsible. So, and we as a new generation who saw this, I think, should reconsider our history, our views to the things, and what is good and what is bad for us. And this is the thing which I think should be done by both states. The people who believe in democracy, and because we should cooperate. Without cooperation, I think we will not succeed. And we should always be very vibrant, very sometimes very pessimistic, and we should always want more. If we don't want more, we will not get more. This is the way of check and balance system. If we want to do new changes in these areas, we haven't found new good ones. So of course we should want more. And it's not only about my country or your country, it is about the world. Because what happens in a region directly affects to other regions. So, and we should be really united to counter these authoritarian, totalitarian or semi-democratic leaders, because they act in group, they act cooperatively. And all the bureaucracies, all the organizations, all the institutions we have, these are good things. We should use the good features of these things and not to concentrate on the bad stuff. And we should also consider on our features, on our similarities, not the differences, because we can always find differences.
Azad, Azad, Uzano, Azad. Միջև բախում է սկսել